Welcome to the world beyond imagination. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And enjoy the journey. His one mistake: feeding the hungry alien children of the Galactic Empress. The port of Ethelgerd was a cold mouth on the edge of known space, a place where light went to hide, and I was just another scrap of shadow trying to earn a credit. My ship, the guttering Candle, was docked for repairs, which meant I was stranded. And stranded meant spending my last few coins on the only thing that felt like home in this rusted hell: a bowl of soup from Earth Home Cooking. The orange neon sign was a liar. Of course, nothing here was from Earth, but the smell of simulated broth and spices was a warmth I could cling to. I slid onto the stool, the dark wood sticky under my elbows, and waited. The steam from the bowl I was about to receive was going to be the highlight of my month. That is when I saw them, two of them, huddled together at the end of the counter, their green skin seeming almost gray in the dim light. They were slight, elfin, with long white hair that looked tangled and dull. Their clothes were simple, dark, and a size too big. But it was their eyes that caught me, wide, luminous pools of violet, fixed on my bowl as the server placed it before me. I saw the hunger in them, a raw physical ache that transcended species. It was a look I knew, a ghost from my own past on the starving colonies. It was the look before you give up. Do not get involved, Kael, I told myself, the first and last rule of the sprawl. Do not look, do not speak, do not care. I picked up my spoon. The rich smell of the broth filled my nose. I took one sip, and it was glorious, a warmth that spread through my frozen chest, and from the corner of my eye, I saw the two girls flinch, as if the sound of my swallowing was a physical blow. One of them, the smaller one, placed a three-fingered hand flat on her stomach. Her shoulders slumped. It was just a bowl of soup. It was everything. With a sigh that came from the very core of my being, I pushed the bowl away from me. It scraped against the counter. The sound made them look up. I gestured to it, then to them, and gave a small, awkward nod. For a moment, they were statues. Then, with a sudden desperate grace, they slid from their stools and approached. They did not take the bowl. They simply stared at it, then at me. Their violet eyes filled with a confusion that broke my heart. "It is okay," I said, my voice soft. "In the quiet diner. Please, take it, share it." The taller one reached out, her slender fingers wrapping around the warm bowl. She pulled it close, and they both bent over it. Inhaling the steam, they had no spoons. They lifted the bowl together and drank, small careful sips that quickly became gulps. In less than a minute, the bowl was empty. They placed it back on the counter with a soft click and looked at me. The gratitude in their eyes was so profound, so utterly silent. It was louder than any thanks. That should have been it. My one quiet rebellion against the cold universe. A single bowl of soup, but it was not. I saw them again the next day, in the same spot, watching the same server bring my same meal. This time, I did not hesitate. I ordered 2 extra bowls. I pushed them toward the girls before I even touched my own. The server, a grizzled man with cybernetic eyes, glared at me but said nothing. The girls ate, and for the first time, I saw a hint of color in their green cheeks, a light in those violet eyes. This became our ritual for 5 days. While my ship was patched up, I would go to Earth Home Cooking. I would order 3 bowls of soup, and we would sit in silence. They never spoke, but they began to smile. Small flickering things. They began to arrive just as I did, one day. The smaller one, whom I had started to think of as Lua, left a small polished stone by my bowl, a perfectly smooth piece of obsidian. It was a gift, a thank you, on the final night. My credit chip was nearly empty, but my ship was ready. I bought one last round of soup, 3 bowls of the simplest broth. As we ate, I finally spoke to them. "I leave tomorrow," I said. "My ship is fixed." They looked up, Their spoons halting, the taller one, Nia, reached out and touched the patch. On my jacket sleeve, the insignia of the Independent Haulers Guild. She pointed to it, then to me, a question in her eyes. "Yes," I said. "That is me. I have to go." The sadness that clouded their features was a physical weight in the room. It felt wrong, leaving them here in this dim port. But they were not my responsibility. I was a hauler, a man of no consequence. I finished my soup, stood up, and placed the obsidian stone in my pocket. "Goodbye," I whispered. I walked out of the diner and did not look back. It was the only way to survive. Weeks passed. The memory of the green girls with the violet eyes faded into the backdrop of 100 ports, 100 faces. I was hauling a load of polymer seeds to the Helix sector when the void around my ship tore open. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was a rip, deliberate and violent. From the blinding tear in reality, a ship emerged. It was not a ship, it was a cathedral, a blade, a nightmare of polished obsidian and cold blue light. It was an Imperial Dreadnought of the celestial ascendancy. And it was targeting me. Alarms screamed through the candle. My controls went dead. A tractor beam, impossible in its power, locked onto my little freighter and pulled me into the cavernous belly of the Leviathan. I was thrown from my chair. As gravity shifted, I had time for one thought. What did I do? What law did I break? The boarding hatch melted open with a hiss, and they entered, soldiers, clad in armor of liquid shadow, their faces hidden behind helmets that showed only a single pulsing blue optic. They did not speak. They seized me, their grips like industrial vice, and dragged me from my ship. I was marched through corridors that seemed carved from black diamond, under arches that hummed with contained power. This was not a military vessel. It was a palace adrift in the stars, and I was a stain upon its floor. They threw me into a chamber so vast the ceiling was lost in mist. The floor was a dark mirror, and in the center, upon a throne of intertwined silver and obsidian, sat their mother, the Galactic Empress. She was magnificent and terrifying. Her skin was the same vibrant green as the girls, but luminous, as if lit from within. Her hair was a cascade of white silk, flowing over shoulders clad in a gown of deepest space blue. Her eyes, the same breathtaking violet, held no warmth, only the cold, absolute fire of a star. She looked at me, and I felt insignificant, a germ to be scrubbed away. The soldiers forced me to my knees. The silence was a pressure, threatening to crush my skull. Then, she spoke. Her voice was not loud, but it vibrated in my teeth, in my bones. "You," she said. The word of verdict. "You fed them." I could not breathe. My mind raced. Fed who then? From behind her throne, two small figures stepped out. Lua and Nia. They were transformed, dressed in gowns of subtle silver, their hair gleaming, but their eyes were the same. And they were fixed on me with a mix of fear and hope. "You gave them your food," the Empress continued. She lifted a hand, and in her palm, a hologram sprang to life. It was a security feed from Earth Home Cooking. It showed me pushing my bowl across the counter. It showed the girls drinking. It showed the stone being placed next to my bowl. "You contaminated my ears with your pity." It was not pity, I gasped, the words torn from me. They were hungry. "Hunger is irrelevant," she stated, her voice freezing the air. They were on a rite of passage, a test of resilience to endure privation, to understand the cold marrow of the universe before assuming their throne. "You interfered. You introduced a variable, a weakness, compassion." She spat the word as if it were a poison. Lua, the smaller one, suddenly stepped forward. "Mother, he was kind." Her small voice echoed in the great space. "He asked for nothing." Silence. The Empress commanded, but her gaze flickered, for the briefest moment, to her daughter, and in that flicker, I saw not anger, but a profound, unsettling fear. She looked back at me. "Your one mistake, human. was seeing subjects where there are only tools, seeing children where there are only heirs. You showed them a universe that does not exist, a universe where a stranger gives away his last comfort. She rose from her throne, towering, a goddess of judgment. For that, you will be erased, your ship, your memory, your kindness. It will all be unmade, as if it never was. The soldiers tightened their grip. Nia cried out, "No," but I looked up, into the face of absolute power, and the fear melted away, leaving only a cold certainty. "That is your mistake," I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong. The Empress paused. "What? You call compassion a weakness?" I said, meeting her starfire eyes. "You think their resilience comes from going hungry, but I saw their real strength. It was in their gratitude. It was in the gift of a stone. It was in the trust they gave a stranger. You did not test their strength. You tested their capacity for suffering, and you confused the two." I took a ragged breath. I fed them, because it was the human thing to do. And in that empty port, they were not heirs to me. They were just two kids who needed a bowl of soup. "That is not a weakness, Majesty. That is the only thing that makes the cold marrow of this universe worth bearing." The chamber was utterly still. The Empress stared at me, her expression unreadable. I could see the conflict now, not in her face, but in the rigid set of her shoulders. In the slight tremble of her long fingers, she looked from me to her daughters, who were now holding hands, their small faces set in defiance. She saw the truth in their eyes, the truth they had learned not from her test, but from mine. She slowly sat back upon her throne, the weight of 1,000 worlds seeming to settle on her. The fury was gone, replaced by an immense weary calculation. "An interesting thesis," she said, her voice now quiet, contemplative, "that the strength to rule comes not from enduring darkness, but from recognizing a light, however small, and refusing to let it die." She looked at the obsidian stone, which had fallen from my pocket, and now lay on the mirrored floor. "You risked everything for a light you did not have to protect." She was silent for a long time, then she waved a hand. "Release him." The soldiers let go. I stumbled forward, rubbing my arms. "You will not be erased, Hauler Kael," she declared. "Your mistake will be studied. It will be a curriculum. You will return to your ship. You will continue your runs. But once per standard cycle, you will report here. You will sit with my daughters, and you will explain this human thing to them. You will tell them of a world where kindness is not a strategic error, but a first principle. You will teach them the strength you speak of." It was not a request, it was a new decree. I stood there, shocked. Nia and Lua smiled at me, their real, glowing smiles. "My one mistake," the Empress said, a strange, almost soft note in her voice, "was believing the galaxy could be ruled by a heart of stone. Perhaps it is time to test a different hypothesis now. Get out of my throne room, your ship is waiting. And I believe you have a delivery to make." I was escorted back to the guttering candle, not by force, but with a strange, solemn escort. As my ship powered up, I looked at the obsidian stone now sitting on my control console. I had gone to a diner for a bowl of soup. I had made one mistake. I had fed 2 hungry children, and in doing so, I had not just saved myself. I had perhaps begun to change the heart of an empire. All because for a moment, in a dimly lit port, I decided to be human. The story does not end here, dear viewer, it only begins. For next cycle, I have to go back, and the lesson plan is a terrifying blank. But I have my first topic. It is called a bowl of soup, and what it really means. Subscribe, and be here for the next chapter, because the Empress is waiting, and I have no idea what I am doing.